We are entering into a new epoch of world history. It is important to understand that this new epoch of world history has an impact on all levels of humanity and all stratospheres of society, and it is something that can be seen both in technology, in politics, religion, and in science. Understand that as the ages change and as the eras and time periods change, that there is a change in the way in which the human progression takes place as a result of acquired collected knowledge. And this is related both to language and technology, and it is related to the astrological impacts upon the earth. So, it is important to understand then when we speak of a new era, a new epoch, a new age that is being ushered in. We speak of that which is shown both in Eastern and in Western astrology, and in the teachings of both. It is likewise to be understood that this is not something that simply occurs once, but has occurred in the past and will occur in the future, and that these epochs cover long periods of history, and that they are represented astrologically, but not always in the way you would assume. So now you are entering an epoch or a time that is related directly to electricity and related to the ethers in such a sense as being related to that which is transmitted through light and radiation. So you are entering an era that is relative to thought. You are entering an area that is relative to all of the modern technologies of communication and to a unified language. That unified language being not just a spoken language, but being the language of computer programming or binary language, which is the ultimate singular language. Now understand that language is not just what one speaks, but language is also whatever one uses to communicate, or what anything or any intelligence uses to communicate. Therefore, language is more than just a spoken word. It is the essence of communication. And for this reason, computers and computer storage using that which is binary is the ultimate language pulled into its most basic and raw form. That is the language of the universe, the language that has been used to transmit and encode, the language that actually is transmitted even to the very DNA of the human being and to the very essence of existence. So, first, look at the astrological ages, and we will begin by speaking to you of the age of Gemini, the age of duality, that age in which the Aboriginal peoples and the indigenous peoples refer to a dream world. That age which is alluded to in the ancient scriptures of the Abrahamic faiths as the Garden of Eden. That age which is also shown in the Kabbalah as being a time when there is a duality of existence. So, that is then the time that is referred to in the ancient past, and the Kabbalah shows such as a fall, as the world of death dropping or falling to become the world of Malkuth. That is the great fall, the fall from the total existence, but there was then a unity of the individual and of the world and of the reality still to the divine. But with that fall, with that change being alluded to, there came a new time. And then we can look at progressive astrological ages as they are shown. For if you will think of the people then living in a world that was ruled by the astrological or zodiacal element of Taurus, these people were led out of Egypt. They were led out of the bondage of that era and into the liberation of a new time and a new era. That epoch was then the epoch of Aries. But when the people were led from one epoch to the next, they looked back, and looking back, they tried to sustain the old ways. This is then the story of Moses ascending the mount and returning to find the people of Israel worshipping the golden calf. They tried to hold on to that which was past, and what happened? They wandered for 40 years in the wilderness. They were cleansed and purged as much as possible of the past before they entered into the present. Each age has a transitioning time, a cleansing time, a purification time. The more people try to cling to the past, the more there must be a purging, and the more turmoil, the more trouble, the more violence, the more destruction will occur with the changing of the epoch. It is truly that simple. So if you look ahead and you see again the changing of an era of consciousness, the changing of an astrological age from Aries even to Pisces, if you see that change being made from the sacrificial, the ram, the lamb, if you see that being changed to a time of grace, the time of Pisces, then you will say, why then did that epoch being introduced by the Christ have with it such a great force of sacrifice? It is because the Christ taught love, but the people, especially the rulers, took and tried to maintain the status quo of an age past. So you had the age of the bull, and you had the age of the sacrificial, which was Aries. And when you look at how the people were living in the sacrificial time, they represented removing their sins and their guilts by their agrarian society of sacrificing animals, which they then in turn were allowed to eat, and which sustained them. And they understand that they both destroyed their evils and that they were being given sustenance by the divine. Then you move to the more recent era of grace. But when that epoch entered, there was already a government well established under the sign or astrological influence of Aries. So, as a result, they turned and took control of this new world that was coming into existence, of this new element of being. If you look at the early Christian church, you will see that there are no crucifixes with the Christ crucified. Rather, they were represented by the sign of Pisces, or some of you may prefer to say Pisces, but they were represented by this emblem, and they were represented by the Good Shepherd. The whole idea of sacrifice was not part of that which the Christ himself brought in. Rather, the Christ said that he gave that sacrifice that a new era of grace may be ushered in. So he was the last great sacrifice of the period of Aries, of the astrological epoch of Aries, and that meant that the new epoch was to be cleansed of the idea of sacrifice. And then the political world hijacked the philosophy of the Christ and made it into a religion and put the sacrificial in it to be able to control the people. For Christianity in its early days taught liberation. It taught the freedom of the individual and the divine grace and the individual connection to God, to the divine. This was dangerous for the governments of that time, who ruled by claiming themselves often to be divinity. Thus, it was that sacrifice began to taint the new epoch, and even to this day has done so. And now you enter a new astrological epoch, a new era, the epoch of Aquarius, the water bearer, the pouring forth of love and wisdom, the pouring forth of East and West meeting together. Now, it is not just the astrological that you must realize, for there is within all of this also important to be understood the teachings of both the East and the West, for there were different leaders of philosophy. The two main leaders of philosophy being the Buddha and Jesus of Nazareth, who became known as the Christ. So you had the leader who taught wisdom, and you had the leader who taught divine grace or love. These are the foundation of the coming epoch, the epoch that is now being ushered in, the love wisdom world. We say love wisdom world because the former epoch was the divine grace world, or the world of love, and the epoch before that was the epoch of sacrifice. But understand that has not just been two leaders, there have been others who have put various teachings together, such as Confucius. There have been teachers and prophets throughout the ages, and if you look historically, you will see that there is a lineage of prophets that come directly down because of hereditary natures of some of those gifts, so that the ancient prophets who are mentioned in biblical terms in the scriptures of the Jewish people and in the scriptures of the Christian Bible and in the scriptures of Islam, you will find that if you go back and trace carefully, you can find direct lineages of the prophets. And this is something that carries through from age to age to age, because these are the souls that incarnate to bring you the new and necessary changes. They are the souls that incarnate to bring you back during a epoch to the essence of what that epoch was meant to be about. Now, in the scientific realm, there is the growth of the electronic, This relates very specifically to a new astrological age, a new astrological epoch, because the science, especially that which is related to that, which you would consider electrical, and when we say electrical, we mean something beyond electric. It is beyond ethereal. It is all about that which surrounds the static, the essence, the creative radiation. It is that through which, in its grosser forms, your technology of computers and satellite phones and telecommunications works. This is very prominently stated in the Eastern forms of astrology. Your Western forms of astrology stress this much less so, and stress more the ethical rather than the scientific essence of the age. But you are entering an era that is certainly an epoch of science, a revolutionary time in which, while you live in the physical, you will be able to go back and connect with that ethereal, that which seemed to be of the duality of which the Aboriginal people spoke of when they lived in the time of Gemini. What is the difference? The difference is that at that time it was a natural part of the being and a natural part of the existence. But now you live in an era or an epoch when you will be fully physical, yet you will touch that through the essence of communication and electricity, because you will be able to tap into that realm through the science of the epoch, through the science of the era or the age, and you are thus being carried into the new realms of understanding, and it will give you completely different outlooks on your medicine. It will give you a different understanding of religion and philosophy, as you can realize the physical essence of the being and then come to realize the electrical or auric or atomic expression of the being or the self, which will mean that technology within this epoch, within these coming times, will be able even to touch upon the reality of the soul, something that has not been able to be proven in the past, but which can be proven and shall be proven through science. That divine spark, that essence of being that exists in all that is created and is especially animated and expressed through the human element of each of you. This is the coming of a new epoch. This is the coming of a new understanding, and it is also the coming of a time of great peace. It has that potential, and yet there has been times of great catastrophe, even that which some would consider an apocalypse prophesied. But that is only because governments, people, and many who desire to maintain their special status or their preeminence, will cling to the past. And clinging to the past, they will create both a time of war, famine, and plague, and temporarily have the potential to create a misuse of the technologies of the new epoch, so they are able to wreak great destruction and great havoc. This can be avoided. This should be avoided, but it is very real as a possibility, because humanity doesn't like to let go of the past. Humanity wants that consistency. And especially people who are in power or possess things that they feel makes them special, they do not want to let go. So they will cling, and that clinging can cause great suffering. However, this is what you should understand about the new epoch. The new epoch is the era of love and wisdom. It is a prophesied era of peace and prosperity and healing. It is a new world, a new heaven, so to speak. It is a utopia of sorts where all of humanity is one humanity, where there is not division of race, but recognition of the divine within all people. It is the essence of the coming epoch. It is this epoch of love and wisdom, the love-wisdom world that we must now work to usher in. It is important that people be trained in meditation and prayer. It is important that people be trained in the basic sciences and arts. It is important that there be real scientists and that there be good artists. It is important that people be trained in political elements as well, and actually work and strive to bring a new political understanding to the people of the world. It is important that people be trained in healing, in both that which has been the crude technology of the past and that which is fast developing, that is part of the new technological age. And it is likewise important that philosophers and those who are religious be trained in the very essence of the divine. It is not at this time that we would tell you that anyone should be told that they must live by this religion or that religion. Rather, we would tell you that it is important that all religions be realized that they are a collective way of reaching the expression of the self collectively to worship the divine. And in this, it is important that religions that are going to exist not be outmoded or outdated, but rather be current with technology, with the real world in which they live. Therefore, we are not proclaiming a new religion, but we are telling you that much of religion is outdated, and that if a religion is to survive, it must be current with the social issues, with the scientific realities, and the political understandings of an epoch or an era. For this reason, it is written that a religion, if it does not bear fruit, will be removed, and a new one will be grafted in as a new limb into a tree. This is important because we are not telling you that your religion needs to be removed from the tree. We are telling you that your religion needs to feed from the tree, so it is having a full impact upon society and is relevant to society. That which was relevant 2,000 years ago is not necessarily relevant today. In not the philosophy, for the philosophy stays current. The philosophy of the past religions is current. The problem is that the social customs and social norms that have become connected to many religions, to Christianity, to Islam, to Judaism, these social norms are outdated. They are not part of the actual faith. They are man-made, and they are made to fit a specific era or time in history. They are no longer relevant. They are not relevant to this epoch. So religion must come up to date, or it will die. Any religion that does not come up to date will become a dead religion. It is that simple. It will cause great turmoil. It will cause great trouble. Now, when a religion dies, we do not tell you there will be no remnants of it, for religions have risen and fallen throughout history. And with all of that, you will still find teeny pockets of any faith somewhere, a people that considers themselves the true people, the guardians of something special. But if you will look at those people, they also have a lifestyle that is not in keeping with the lifestyle and the technology and the current politics and societal norms of your age. Just think about it. If you look at an Aboriginal people and you look at their beliefs, they hold them, but they still live in a way that is very different. If you look at someone who holds a very fundamentalist Christian belief, and then you look at what they have integrated into their lives, you will find that their understanding of their scriptures has caused them to push aside certain technologies and advances. If you look at any faith, you will find this occurs. What we tell you now is you are at the precipice of ushering in the world of love, wisdom, a world that was prophesied as a utopia, a new heaven and a new earth prophesied in Revelations. It is the time of the world of love and wisdom. We will simply call it, for the sake of ease, the love-wisdom world. It is at this time, then, that we would invite you to be part of that new and coming world. And while things are just at the beginning, help is needed. People are needed to teach others, about the new and coming epoch, which is just beginning. Think about it. When Moses led the people out of Egypt, it is shown that he had the elders, a small group, helping him. And the people eventually went into their promised land. And after this period of wandering, they established their new order. Then, when Jesus of Nazareth established the new epoch, he had with him only a few disciples. And those disciples and those who were with them began to teach others about a new epoch, a new era, a new age where people could live in the essence of their own divinity. And what happened? Well, of course, some governments fought against it, but again, it spread throughout the world. Now we are entering into this new epoch, and those who would be effective in their fields of study, those who would make changes in politics and in the arts and in the sciences, they are needed. They are needed to study, they are needed to learn, they are needed to become a part of the love wisdom world so they can usher in this new epoch, so they can do just as the apostles did, just as those in the past did when ushering in a new epoch, that they can make this something that will carry through to the various parts of the world so it can prosper and benefit therefrom, and so the whole world can be lifted up, so the whole world can prosper, and so the whole world can become a world of abundance and peace as prophesied. Are you a healer? Are you a person who just wants to learn about meditation and prayer? Are you a politician? Are you an artist? Are you an actor? Are you a sports star? Are you a leader in the world of tomorrow? Are you one of the people who will make the changes and lead the way for tomorrow? Are you part of today's youth? Will you make the great scientific discoveries of tomorrow? Are you one of the elders of today who would like to close your eyes knowing at the end of your life that the new epoch, the new age, has been safely secured and safely ushered in? We welcome you. We welcome you. You are needed. You are needed. Your world needs you. The love wisdom world will be founded upon your efforts. Come, be with us.